Welcome again, it's Brian Burke here from Thrive Now. Today, as a part of the course on Listening to Thrive, we're going to talk about what it means to be whole listeners, to be holistic listeners, to listen in a different way. Particularly what I want to drill down on is that most of our listening, we tend to compartmentalize. It's a way that we think a lot in life, and unfortunately that runs into some difficulties. We tend to separate listening as an act that we do as a function, as a task, instead of something that we look at as listening as who we are. I want to propose to you that to become great listeners is to resist the idea of seeing listening as something that you do, but is something that you are a listener. That listening isn't an act, but it's a way of life. That we stop sort of thinking, I'm not listening now, or I am listening, because ultimately we want to be listening all the time. And the other issue with compartmentalizing listening is it leaves us feeling empty. It sometimes leaves us feeling as if there's a bit of a void. In fact, if we just listen for details, if we just listening becomes, if you could say, a hat that we put on, a task that we do, then it leaves us with a sense of dissatisfaction. At its worst, when we just listen as a function, we can become lonely listeners. Listening just feels as if it's another job that we have to do. It's something that we need to perform, and it lacks that sense of connection because we're doing something. It's not who we are. And when I'm doing something, it's not who I am. I'm not connecting with who the other person is. We're literally just exchanging details. We're literally just performing a task. And that's why I'm saying that great listening is actually to become holistic in our view of listening. And to do that is to put aside the thought that listening is simply a task that you and I do, but it's a way of life. We view ourselves as people who listen, which is an awesome understanding to have. Extending upon that too, when we over-compartmentalize our lives, we then try and put on different hats of what it looks like in different settings of listening. So I might say, for instance, that I'm listening for information, or I'm listening critically, or I'm listening in an empathetic manner. Again, there are certain benefits of looking at it that way, and particularly if you could say trying to get some understanding of listening, but if we follow through with that compartmentalizing of listening, in the long run, it can cause us issues. Give you some examples. If you're, for example, managing someone at work, and you just say that you're listening in a critical manner or for information listening, that can go only so far before the people around you start to yearn more for a sense of real connection, and the people around you start to even second guess themselves of how you're perceiving them, because they're not getting anything back from you except an exchange of details, and there's more to life than just details. That's why it's really important. Another example as well is even the area emphatic listening. If we're to listen with empathy, that's a great thing. But even listening with empathy, where there's a part of us that should be able to look with a listening with a discerning element, to be considering, for example, what we'll talk about later, what the heart say, or listening for information as well. So that's some of the reasons why I'm proposing to you that when we over-compartmentalize our view of listening and destructure it into different silos, we actually cause ourselves to trip up with listening. And instead, the answer is to view listening in a holistic manner as well. It's not linear. You see, our lives are rich. Our lives are a rich tapestry. Our lives have many inputs. And so too is our view of listening. Our listening doesn't start at point A and get to point B, there's a rich interplay. There's a movement. There's many things that are impacting on our listening, and that's why it's really important to see ourselves as holistic listeners. In fact, it's somewhat simplistic and not honoring of ourselves to view ourselves just as a simple sheet and reading details and listening to those details. We're much more. People that we interact with are much more. And that's why when we consider listening, we need to consider listening as dynamic, as real, as vibrant, as living. It has purpose, it has meaning. It's transformational, not just transactional. Well, that'll do for today. I look forward to discussing more about holistic listening the next time we catch up. Thanks again. Catch you later. Bye-bye.